Hello, folks, friends, and all you lovely people. I'm here today wondering about a small question which was popped up to me by a friend. That was, have you ever brushed that all your achievement or success uh, is felt like, brushed aside, or you feel very humbled? क्या आपको कभी ऐसा लगा है कि आप जहां भी हैं, आपको वहां नहीं होना चाहिए था, शायद ये जगह आपके लिए नहीं है? क्या आपको कभी ऐसा लगा है कि आप खुद से लड़ रहे हैं, या नहीं वो ट्रू कॉलिंग ढूंढ रहे हैं, और आप जिस जगह पे हैं वहां आप मिसफिट हैं? और आई एम वेरी श्योर दैट the population around, whether they realize or not, it does happen with most of us. As a matter of fact, the data around the world says that matters, or it happens to around 70% of us at some time in life. It could be growing up, it could be when you're in your career, in your school, or even in your personal space, quite sometimes. So, yes, let the suspense go. I would be talking to a very dear friend, a young, lovely lady who's with us today about imposter syndrome. So, uh, Aisha, welcome to the Happiness How, and our Cuppas are here. Welcome to Happiness Over a Cuppa. Let's see your
Thank
Cuppa.
you.
How does it look?
Yeah, so it looks like this.
All right.
And it says that your only limit is your mind. So thank you for having
Oh,
me here today.
all right. So you all got the lovely take on life of or about Asia. So yes, so we can take that to mm, there are no limits in your mind at least. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Happiness Over a Cuppa. And let me give you a small brief introduction about our lovely guest this morning. Aisha is an investment banking analyst at JP Morgan in Bangalore, India. And she is also a student of applied statistics at Institute of Indian Statistics, Kolkata. As per her hobbies, obviously, you would guess she is Bengali, so mathematics comes naturally to her. And besides that, she is very active in social circle. Her hobbies, the little that I know, include dancing, singing, going out. She loves, being with friends. And also, one of her endeavors is very active in the Rotary. So active and passionate about it that she is among the founding members of her Rotary Club, that is Middletown, Bangalore. So, Aisha, I hope I have gotten your introduction correct.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. That was really kind of you. And I am very glad that I be a part of this second Kappa edition. And I hope that this conversation brings light to a lot of people who are listening to us today and also transforms them and their lives in some way.
Imposter syndromes, you know, in India seems like lesser known phenomena, if I may say. Yes, in the West it is quite known. The way our culture and the environment goes, I find that not many people are really aware about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, our endeavor today, and in most of our editions and series, is to make you aware of the lesser informed things, so that we are better equipped to combat them, to understand them, and to realize and help ourselves and help people around us. So, Aisha, First is you looking very serious to me.
No, I was just
All right.
listening to you. Yeah.
Or is it the word imposter syndrome?
No. So I think that in today's generation or today's world, it is something that is very important to be self-aware about. Like we know, imposter syndrome is a feeling, or it's like a unknown characteristic in you that limits you to your full potential. It keeps stopping you that you're not good enough, aapse nahi ho payega, and this is you doing this to yourself,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
of course, it is a very new idea that is coming up, and something like this would probably not even be coined until later, recently, right? So,
Hmm.
as much as I have seen, it is very common. I think it happens to every person you know, or everyone, at
All
least
right.
I know, once in their lifetime, in very smallest ways to biggest ways. And that is why it is so important to hear about this from coaches like you, from mentors, from our parents, so that from childhood, there is nothing that can limit you, not yourself, at least not yourself, because you should be your best friend, you should be everything to yourself. So, I am so glad we're having this conversation, and I want to start this off by asking you the first question, that how do you feel about this? And to make it more relevant to the audience, have you felt this at any point of your life? The imposter syndrome.
All right. Nevertheless, have I felt this syndrome or suffering from syndrome? Like you said, I was also lesser informed, and even if I felt it, I really couldn't define it. And if I would say, was it the syndrome that I was suffering from? I really couldn't be able to decipher it even now. Yet there have been times where I have felt that uh, I really don't belong here. I went to do my fighter controller training, and yes, I was all hunky dory about the laurels that I'd earned, the trophy, the medals, and stuff like that. And a little while into this training, I realized that I was, being judged by people around me. Yet, when I was pushed in that corner, I performed. So it gives me mm, two things here. I could have not done anything about it and maybe sought some help. Or the other, which was the positive side, was to learn and still, follow my gut, follow the strength that I had, that yes, you could do it. And Asia, believe me, I surprised myself. And I came out in flying colors. So this was my experience. Now, before I go any further and talk more about imposter syndrome, I would ask
Mhm.
you this question: have you ever felt that you've suffered with this, or you've had friends and people around you who have been suffering and not knowing about it?
Firstly, before I start that, I want to say, pause and say that that was a really brave thing for you to do, to push yourself out of your limit. And I think that's what brings us here, like takes us to different courses of life. And I'm sure that a lot of us can implement that, learn, take some learnings out of that, and
Mhm.
see that there will be people around you, but it's you that matters at the end. And that's what I learned here. So I want to thank you for sharing that story first. Secondly, for I've seen a lot of people suffering from it, and I think the word syndrome is too heavy, but however, it is very generalized, that even if you're facing it unconsciously in your head, you don't even know, you can't control it, it does turn out to be a syndrome. And an example I would like to share is someone very dear to me, and I have seen her be amazing. at what she is, like, for example, her profession. But because of her socioeconomic background, she never had a chance, or she never thought it's important to even create that platform, because that's how the generation, or that's how the opportunities were for her. It took her years to overcome uh, what to overcome the feeling that she thought that she would not be good enough. And I'm talking about my mother itself, right? She's a
Mm.
very, very inspirational person to me. She has been amazing at dancing, at wanting to taking her career forward, but it only started in her 30s because she kept thinking that maybe this is not the space for her, maybe she's not good enough. And I think that's where not just you, but people around you, your family, your friends, they come into picture. How much support they give you. Sometimes there's no support at all. We really can't say anything about that. But we try to push her, we try to help her as much as we can. And today she's doing amazing beyond limits that we could have imagined, beyond what she could have imagined. She runs a school with almost 150 kids and she handles it solo with no working team, no working management, but touch wood, it's just her zest to be where she is. And it's just that feeling of breaking through the cage. So that's one of the biggest learning I have had and seen someone evolve from just imposter syndrome.
So, firstly, Isha, let me compliment you here for being so brave. बहुत ही हिम्मत चाहिए होती है, बहुत courage चाहिए होता है to become vulnerable. And one is vulnerability about self, and the other is vulnerability about your, mm, close kith and kin, your people and family. So thank you for sharing that with us. And the little that I know of your mother, I know she's doing wonderful and marvelous. So मैं आगे ये जानना चाहूँगा कि for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, that what exactly uh, was the feeling that she was going through, or people that you were aware of, go through when they suffer with this imposter syndrome, or if I may call it, before we go to the cause and effect, what are the symptoms that one feels if you're aware about it? And then maybe I also can share the little that I know or what
So,
I have gone through. Sorry.
yeah. So as much as I have read and seen, so I'm going to give to answer this in two ways, and because you are the coach here, you're going to tell me if this is right or wrong and what your perspective is too. So the first way is the kind of symptoms I would see live, and you can't really name them. There's no big words involved to it. It just as soon as some challenge comes your way, that's what I've seen people, like something that is not usual to the 9 to 5 that you do. That is when you start questioning yourself. And when you start questioning yourself, you call your family, your close friends or people, and ask them about you, like, hey, do you think I should do this? Of course, getting opinion is something else, but I have seen people discuss it beyond boundaries, and it somewhere leads to them questioning themselves. So when the answer lies within you and you're not answering yourself, then we know what's happening. That's one. And secondly, if we see according to science, there's three kinds of P's that are involved in this. One is
Hmm.
perfectionism, paralysis, and procrastination. So, these are the three major symptoms that you get when you are going through imposter syndrome. So, you you want to be perfect, but there is actually no perfect. Perfection is a relative term.
Ask
And
me.
that's what I think. And the second thing is, after you are analyzing the scenario, you are becoming more paralytic to it. Instead of being brave and being more open to the new challenges that are coming ahead, you are being paralytic to the scenario. So that's your second uh, outlook, your second knock knock right there, and the third one is procrastinating on it.
Hmm.
So these are the three major symptoms of imposter syndrome. Is what I think.
All right.
What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. And while I do that, I would also want to add, like I said, uh, now, I've gotten thinking that is what happens in the coaching space. You you make a concerted effort to deep dive into yourself and you know mm, do that probing and listen to yourself. So when I do that, uh, I feel the feeling that probably I was going through that time was a feeling of self-doubt, or a feeling of that, yeah, you're not smart enough to compete with others, or you really don't have a hold of what you're doing, and you kind of out of your depth, आपके अंदर एक vacancy है, you feel stifled, and there is angst, deeper, which, if not counted on time, I feel. I was lucky enough that yes, I did come out of that pretty quick, and later on ended up doing pretty good in my career. Uh, but it can turn into anxiety. It can turn into all those symptoms which probably stress can lead to, anxiety, depression, and the panic attack. It could happen anytime. You may freeze in the middle of a meeting. You may freeze on stage. So ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो कि आपको ये लगने लगता है, क्योंकि कि क्या you are trying to fake it, or the people around you think फ्लॉड है ये, मतलब ये इसकी जगह नहीं है. And if I may call it, you feel that you're in a wrong room, whether it is your personal life, whether it is your professional life. And mm, आज नहीं तो कल शायद लोगों को, या people will see through it, and will call on you. So you feel that you'll be exposed. आपको ये लगता है कि यार और ऐसा हो गया तो क्या होगा, और ये चीजें क्यों आती हैं. हाँ, हम इस पे भी डिस्कस कर सकते हैं कि what could be the root cause and what are the effects here. So yet, this is the small little you know feel that I have about imposter syndrome. So yes, with that, what do you think could be the cause for this? You know, I mean, if you've thought, or like you've you may have spoken to your mother, or people who probably you felt friends, and people growing up with you. So
So
तुम्हें क्या लगता है कि क्या कारण हो सकते हैं ये बिहेवियर पैटर्न के, और ये इस क्राइसिस के.
I'm not really sure about it at all. Uh,
ओके.
I feel like everyone comes from very different socioeconomic backgrounds,
वेरी
right?
ट्रू.
And the way they are brought up and what they see around their environment, circumstances matter a lot on their thinking and how they overcome things. So I think somewhere it starts there, पता नहीं, और शायद लेटर भी उनके साथ ऐसा कुछ हादसा हुआ हो that they couldn't erase and move on from, for which it has hurt that one part of confidence in them, इसीलिए बार बार वापस आ जाता है imposter syndrome.
ओके. सो you know uh, when I get to thinking about it, uh, I I don't know. I certainly believe the first thing that a person needs to when needs to understand, or when he decides to move up with some purpose, is understand about the identity, his or her identity. So I feel that it emanates from this identity crisis, due to that lack of confidence, or lack of that authenticity at that time, thinking that, am I really ठीक हूँ? Am I good enough? And then thereby you try to prove a point. And when you get into that vicious circle of, am I good enough? And I'm trying to prove a point. So, yes, I sometimes tend to start faking it also. Where and the reason behind this identity crisis generally is uh, understanding of your self-worth or self-esteem or self-efficacy, if I may say. As a coach, I do come across people in terms of executives, professionals, and entrepreneurs who, at very late stage or very successful stage, also have been found to be suffering from these three things or interrelated things related to yourself, your self-worth, self-esteem, and self-efficacy. And so that are those are your my thoughts on that. Or just say now that you are in a corporate career, and I know, having spoken to a lot of clients of mine who are into very high performing jobs or very stressful lifestyles, where they are trying to prove a point, chase certain dreams, be very aspirational. So, do you feel that in the corporate, you may have seen it happening now that we are speaking about it? Does somebody come to your mind, without naming them, could be speak a little more as to what could be the reason that people might be suffering this from?
So I think in the corporate, right,
Mm-hmm,
it's a very, I wouldn't say that it's what has been happening, but
mm-hmm,
that's where we are today. It's a very male dominated industry, right?
mm-hmm,
And for especially females, I have
mm-hmm,
seen a lot of people just walking in and not feeling being educated enough, good enough,
mm-hmm.
or and in the corporate, it's also very hard to talk about it with your co-employees.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you cannot share, or at least you can, but it's not taken very well. I want to ask you this question because, from my experience of corporate, of course, everyone's chasing something every day. Do you think this is more, the imposter syndrome is more prevalent in to the female gender than the male or to the women?
Yes, the research says so, and I want to be very careful and politically correct when I say that. Uh, Yes, like I said, there's no real concrete data which I could lay my hands on in terms of statistics in India or in this region or this subcontinent. Yet in the West, it is said that about 70% females suffer from the syndrome, and especially women of color. So it is not surprising that it would be happening here. So there is one word which I had learned: discernment. And discernment to me is uh, looking at things from different energy altogether. Energy of positivity. When you want to decipher a problem, it could be anywhere. Instead of saying, "Oh, am I not good?" You may say, "Okay, so what really could be the reason?" While I'm saying that, and I'm talking of discerning, what comes to my mind immediately is that sometimes one has to think whether it is imposter syndrome at all.
Yeah,
It may
so
be just yeah, it
yeah,
may
yeah,
be,
I
just your feel, and it may be maybe what you call, not understanding the diversity probably. So,
yeah, so
yeah,
I want to ask another question in relevance to that because
uh-huh,
you've come to a point which is very, like it's a very good question in today's world that because the West is so aware and they have come up with such terminology which we are also, getting the hang of. Is it is it that that's why they have like more more of it at the back of their head कि हाँ मुझे कुछ हो रहा है, और हमारे साथ होता है, but because we're not that aware, it's a good thing you're not turning it into something or blowing out of proportion, right? So it could become a good thing and a bad thing at the same time when you don't know. Like वो लिमिट क्रॉस होने के बाद पता नहीं कहाँ पे जा सकता है your imposter syndrome. बट ये भी हो सकता है that you don't have it, but because you know the word, it starts growing in your head. क्या मुझे ये है, क्या मुझे वो हो सकता है. So what is your take on that?
Excellent. So when you ask me and ask me to give you my take, I would like to dig deeper. And there is no better way to dig deeper, than taking a small little break and coming back with rejuvenated and a fresh pair of thoughts. So what if I have
Absolutely.
to do that and break this monotony? Uh, I would want to ask you, are you a tea person or a coffee person?
I'm actually a coffee person,
All right.
but recently I'm getting the hang of good Darjeeling tea because you don't get that easily here.
For people who don't know what how Darjeeling tea looks, it looks golden in color. So and it is so don't try to keep pouring in more leaves when you're brewing it for it to turn colors and things. It wouldn't happen, but it has got excellent flavor. And all those who are watching us from different parts of the world do try various varieties of tea here. And yes, this is not a paid segment by any tea planters or vendors. So yes,
I hope
we
it
will come
turns
back
into
and
one.
hope.
Yes.
Yes, yes, we can do justice there. So this, you will also take a little break and get your cuppa ready if you haven't already gotten it there. And we'll come back to you and resume this discussion of a very interesting question that Lisa has posed up. Till then, don't forget to like our conversation if you do like it and subscribe to it and share it with people and friends. As I keep saying, you never know who might need this help when. So do that and connect with us. We are looking to hearing from you. So we shall be back with you. You take good care and don't go anywhere. Keep tuning. We shall be here. See you soon. Bye bye.